is July 23rd, 2019, 9 o'clock. We'll call the Floyd County Board of Supervisors regular meeting to order. First item on our agenda is to approve our agenda.
I'll move to approve.
And I'll second that.
And moved and seconded to approve our agenda as presented. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item 2, public comment.
Good morning, good morning.
Morning. Item 3, review action regarding approval of July 8th and then 9th, 2019 meeting minutes. They're in your packet.
And I had read through all the minutes. I didn't see anything online, so I will go ahead and make a motion to approve July 8th and 9th of 2019 meeting minutes.
Okay.
And I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of July 8th and 9th, 2019. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item 4, review action regarding approval of claims. And we've all received those. The one
And I had a-
pack of handwritten.
Yep, and I had a chance to go through those and didn't find anything out of order, and so I'll make a motion to approve the claims as presented.
And I'll second.
Okay, been moved and seconded to approve the claims as presented. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. Item 5, review action regarding HIPAA coordinator designation, and that's what our conversation was about yesterday. And this actually comprised of 3 different things. A HIPAA coordinator, ISAC dues, and a raise for Katie.
It's not ISAC dues though. Okay, just,
For training.
it's a program. It's a program.
And I sat fee for training.
And I know after our discussion yesterday, what she had provided us, I know, and I tried to get back through the job description myself just to make sure if this is really, I think there's some edits that need to be made to it, but at least it's a rough, idea of what the qualifications would be.
The job
for the
description?
person, yeah,
You're
the
talking
job
about now?
description
Okay.
itself. So I do think, that's just an action that needs to happen, is just to maybe clean this up. But as far as the purpose of having this job description, for a person who she's looking at, Katie, it's not Hauser, I always want to say. Sullivan, Katie Sullivan, would be the one in Gail's office that would be taking on this responsibility. I think that makes sense. I think it sounds like Katie's been doing an amazing job since she's been on board, and I think Gail has every comfort level, that Katie can take this role on. I think the one thing that we just want to be sure of, it is additional responsibility, there's additional hours associated with it. So I would definitely agree that going with this, that there would be a form of raise, for Katie, since she's taken on some additional job responsibilities.
What additional hours are there?
Pardon?
What additional hours are there?
There was one of the documents that talked about, all the training
But
involved.
she's still a 37.5 hour week,
Right.
Right, she
Okay,
is,
all
but
right.
I'm
Okay.
sorry, yes, I don't want to mean she's going to be
Yeah.
taking more hours. It's just going to be additional responsibility within the hours that she has today.
Yeah.
I'll put it that way. That's correct. So anyway, like I said, I think we can definitely clean up the job description. And then the other thing that we talked about was utilizing, I think, ISAC's program for HIPAA, which makes most sense to me.
Right.
Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
I think it's a great deal. We've talked about it for years, and through, I don't know, it just hasn't gotten done. This is a way to get it done. I think it's great. Katie's already a member of the risk management, and I think that will be
Yeah.
a good interface with the insurance company too. I'm all for it.
Yeah, no, I think it's the right department for this to end up with. Bob has done this for us as a county for a long time. I believe Bob Lincoln has. And this is really moving it along. And because they deal with medical records and patients, it's probably our department that has the most exposure for that specific thing. Yeah, and yes, it won't be any more hours, it'll be more responsibility, and we do pay people based on responsibility at times, so.
So I can go ahead and try to make this action, because I know that there was 3 different things that we wanted to focus on. One is that we're approving that the HIPAA responsibility will fall under public health, and the responsibility for all of the HIPAA training and everything will fall. I know it's under Gail, but it will be an additional responsibility for Katie Sullivan. The other thing we talked about is where the funding source will come out of, and I believe it was like $1,500. Is that correct? 1950. But again, I think we talked about yesterday, I still believe that probably that funding being taken out of public health. And so I would make a motion to go ahead and proceed with that, let the funding go out of public health.
Okay.
And also, yeah, how much was that? $1 and a $1.25 pay increase for Katie Sullivan for taking on these responsibilities. So those 3 things.
Okay, and I'll second that.
Great, it's been moved and seconded to approve this HIPAA coordinator designation, which includes 3 things. The $1.25 raise for Katie, the ISAC funding, training funding come out of the public health budget. And the 3rd thing is
Salary increase.
No, the job
The job
description.
the job description.
And we do want to make sure, we'll work with Gail to make sure that she can update, maybe and get that job description updated a little bit.
And update the job description, 3 parts to the motion. So, approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Item 6, review action regarding applications for homestead tax credits, disabled homestead tax credits, and military tax exemptions. And we got a pile of
Yeah, I don't know if any had a chance to look at
applications,
these. For military, there's 25 applications that qualify, no disallowances. For military exemption, for homestead credit, there are 213. She's got credit cancellations, 57 military cancellations. Might want to have Joel come up and talk about. Might want to have Joel come up and talk about. Joel or Mary.
Okay. Nobody's home.
Hi, Jewel. Is there a chance you can come up to the Board of Supervisors meeting to talk about these applications?
Yeah, I'll be leaving Alex alone, but he'll be okay till I get back.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks.
You're gonna be good to go then.
The Frank with the new employee, did he start yesterday?
Yes.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay. We're in the,
These are the no's. How many new applications are there?
It's this book.
Okay.
These are all homesteads and 100% disabled. Militaries, there's 5. This one, it's a homestead that we're going to not allow. It's right on top, but here we're disabled. For maps, there's 5 of them.
Okay.
All the rest are homesteads, there's 255.
So 225 homestead credit applications. I want to write this down. 5 disabled. Oh, there's 225, but 1 is going to be disqualified. So there'll be 224 approved, 1 disallowed, and 5 disabled veterans credits.
You should have another book that has the military.
Yeah, that would be, that was 25 military, all allowed, military exemption. And then 213 homestead credit application canceled,
Right, cancel.
and 57 were approved.
Do the sales.
Well, I'm not sure I have all the numbers, but what I'm gonna do is just say, we'll go ahead with the recommendation that has been provided. We'll make sure we get that in our minutes then. So with that, I'll go ahead and approve the applications that we talked about for those that qualified for the homestead tax credits, the disabled veteran homestead tax credit, and also the military tax exemptions.
And I'll second that.
okay, been moved and seconded to approve the applications that have been presented by the assessor's office for homestead tax credits, disabled veteran homestead tax credit, and military tax exemptions. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Joel,
you.
appreciate it.
I'll get these back.
Thanks, Joel.
How far are you guys? Frank was wondering, he's kind of busy, but.
Right now,
He's
You
kind
You
of
know,
busy.
you Dusty.
right now. You want to do it?
No.
Then-
So you want to do Dusty and then I'll send Frank over, or when he's done,
Okay,
if you guys don't care?
doesn't make any difference.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, we'll move on to item 8, which is review action regarding additional compensation to the secondary roads foreman for a temporary increase in workload. Whoa, Dusty.
That was the email I sent you guys last week about Tim. Basically, the whole time he had been covering Kelvin's position while Kelvin was gone for the 3 months. First I put it in an email, then I forwarded the spreadsheet to you guys after. Basically, Kelvin's been back since the 1st of July, so. The other thing I had mentioned that I sent it to Mike Galloway yesterday. Mike Galloway responded that he didn't think it was a problem. That being said, it's, you know, if you look at the union contract, as far as union goes, even if the foremen are not union, you know, when we operate in a different classification in that union contract, you know, we do pay our workers the higher pay. It's not asking for a constant thing, it's just that time during those 3 months that he was gone. Tim not only covered all of his motor grader operators plus spot rocking, but he also reviewed all the driveway permits, any permits that came in.
Which happened to be during the time with all our frost boil, the worst of the frost boil. I can personally, he vouched for him, he did a great job.
And my only concern, I think I had sent you an email on that, is that we do this equally to anybody. You know, I mean, no matter what we do, I don't want to set a precedence, and I think that's my greatest concern.
Sure.
We certainly went through that precedence, you know, on pay increases before, and so I just want to make sure that we're being very careful. I appreciate all the work that he did, truly do,
Mhm.
because I agree with Doug, it was like through some of the worst challenging times that we've had here. But that's my only comment. I just want to make sure that we're careful there, because if we are setting a precedence and we got to be careful about that. Because I'm sure there's other departments too that, you know, have had people that are on medical leave and somebody's having to pick up the slack, and, because it happens, and I know that. Anyway.
Yeah, I guess the one thing that I'd like to see happen in the future, and this goes for any employee, and that is that if we can foresee, and we aren't always able to do that, but if we can foresee that somebody is going to be off on an extended medical leave, and we feel that this is an appropriate situation where somebody's going to have to pick up the slack and do their job, we actually make that action at that time.
Sure.
Because I would assume that your union members, that if they're going to perform in another position above their pay level, that's probably done ahead of time. You say, they're going to do this.
Usually it's just when they turn their timesheet in.
Is it?
They recognize that, we recognize
Yeah.
on there, and then we just switch the pay at that rate.
For the union.
For the union,
In
yeah.
this particular case, nobody knew whether it was gonna be a week or 3 months or 6 months or whatever.
Right.
So,
But if somebody's going to have a surgery or some kind of a situation, a
Something
medical
that's scheduled.
situation,
I do.
yeah, a lot of times you know this, and you say, they're going to be gone for 3 months, and now I got to
Yeah.
do this, and I'm gonna expect you to step up as an employee to do that job.
I do just want you to be careful, because you are setting a precedence on this, because there have been situations just in the last year and a half Jewel that was here took on duties of another person, but in the treasurer's office, and when a deputy was out with cancer, and a clerk stepped in years back. The clerk did the duties, didn't get additional compensation, and as well when a deputy retired and the clerk filled in, didn't get additional compensation for that. It happens a lot in many departments, so that's what I think you need to be thinking about going forward.
I was
From this
thinking
point
about all
forward,
those
are you
terms, yeah.
going to treat everyone
Right,
Same.
and the only, my comment on that is, you're right, you are setting precedent, but then if they are stepping up, then they should be compensated. So I don't see it as a bad precedent, I think it's a positive precedent. If you're gonna keep good employees here that are gonna step up, whether it's not my department, I have no clue what you're talking about as far as, you know, assessor's office or the treasurer's office, not my department.
Right.
But you are setting precedent, but I think it's a good precedent. If there are people, you have people, good employees that are stepping up, then come to the table. And if they think they should have came to the table and do it, and then, I get it, and it's still gonna be relying on you guys, and I told Tim that this morning, so I understand that, that's up to your.
And you have a large budget that you can absorb that, but say like the treasurer's office, they wouldn't be able to absorb someone for 3 months on sick time and additional pay. So those are things
Sure.
to consider there.
Absolutely, and I agree, Gloria. We have to be concerned about budgets, and we have to be aware of those things. We also don't want to abuse our employees. And if you have somebody off on sick leave and you truly have an employee that's stepping up and doing above and beyond, like I said, I don't want to abuse employees. I really think that that's a mistake of any employer, whether it's government or private entity. I think you have to make sure you treat your employees, and I've always said I don't want to pay somebody just because they're doing a job. I want to pay them for the job they're doing. And so, yeah.
I understand, and like I said, I visited with the attorney this morning, so it's kind of, it's in your guys' court, I guess, is what I'm saying.
The numbers you've got here are based on Kelvin's pay compared to Tim's pay?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. The difference in pay in the regular, and then there's a difference in pay in the overtime, and then
Right.
those are the hours accordingly, depending on what was going on.
Yeah, it's a tough one, and I agree with Supervisor Spickerath on the fact that, you know, if they've stepped up to the plate, you know, it was something that was not, you know, planned for, they did the job. We also want to make sure that, you know, we're not putting our employees in a position where, you know, they walk out the door either. you
No, no,
know.
I understand.
We need to,
I think even the.
I
board
think we've
understands.
got great employees, and they're doing what's, you know, what's expected and what's needed at the time, you know, when we have these situations come up. So I appreciate the fact that they do it. It's just a matter of, we just have to recognize that it is something that we'll have to look at moving forward, because if this is approved, you know, then
Sure.
we should.
Maybe it's something to talk to Mike Galloway about, the effect of it
On all departments.
on other areas.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I would entertain a motion, or not, whatever you decide.
I think at this point, I think I would like to have a conversation again with Mike. I think it's well worth it, just to make sure that we are looking at this broadly. So that would be the action I would like to take right now. So if we could just,
You
I'm
want
not
to
gonna make a
table it for
motion. I'm
now?
gonna table it for now and just say I think that's action I think would be wise for us to take.
Yeah, I don't want it to be dead because I
No,
do think
I
it's
don't either.
important to make sure we
Yeah.
pay our employees for the jobs they do.
Right. I would
So-
agree.
So if you want to table it, you want to table it to our next regular meeting?
We can do that.
Okay.
And I'll take it on. I can try and have that conversation with Mike.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Appreciate you guys considering it.
Is that a motion to table it? Linda?
I can, yes, I'll make a motion to go ahead and table this until our next meeting.
And I'll second that.
Okay, then moved and seconded to
When is the next one?
August 13th, that's right, because we go into another month.
Yeah.
table this until our next regular meeting, which would be August, well, 13th.
August 13th.
August 13th. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carried. Where are we at now? Item 9, review action regarding drainage district number 1 tile replacement. And in your packet, you have
Forward you a couple of options here. I don't know if you guys are familiar with, you can see by the aerial photo what we're sort of dealing with. You can look at, I guess the one picture shows one option on the east side, as far as from Victory Avenue across, where the tile was basically, doesn't work. There's trees there, clearing and grubbing will have to happen, and then run the pipe down to where it would outlet, just east of the big rock trees, and that's not farmed for a reason, because it is up and down, and the water runs through there, and there's rocks left and right. The other alternative was to go through that thing and try to do something there, but that would be probably a bigger construction project than what we would think. I think the original complaint came from the field that was, that's separated on just west of Victory Avenue, and thought, as simple as that possibly could be, it might be just as simple just to do the simple project. It would, it's not gonna do anything, it'll help where the wet was in the ground. I just found out from the guy who had called me on, who farms the north half, which is Ryan Schrader, that the south half did not plant that this year, and I'm surprised. I thought it was planted, but I guess in my
I'm trying
mind.
to locate, so where's this located?
You go right to about
South
the
of the
airport,
airport.
and
Yeah.
just go straight south on Victory.
Sandy's son.
Yeah.
Victory is that T intersection right
Yeah.
there.
Right.
So to me, what we could do is try do the simple one maybe and see if that helps, which I think it will. It's gonna help the area that's bad, because this is a field that was wet in here.
Yeah,
And so to me, get it down to there and then outlet it into thing because it runs overground in here anyways and then goes into an intake here, which goes across here. 2 years ago, we did this one over here and
That's
piled
what I
that in
was-
and came over.
right,
It's
right.
not the same property owner as that other.
No,
one.
no. But I don't know if there's any real action for you guys. You just do like we did the last time and we'll take some bids. And the only thing on it is I'm not sure, I don't want to put a deadline because obviously there's crop in Northfield, not crop in the Southfield. That if we just go and take it, it has to be done before freeze up. Maybe that way the crop, and if they wanted to come in now, they could because I think there's access to it. But it just depends on contractors too. A lot of times we run these and we do them and the contractors are so busy until next year.
Right.
Maybe I could put in there an alternative to
Yeah,
bid it completed by November 15th. Any veering away from those specifications, saying, hey, well, we can do it, but we can't do it till next spring. Something like that, where I can leave a spot for them to do that. And then see what sort of prices we get.
Does the drainage district end up paying for crop damage if there's crop damage?
Sure, I don't know, yeah.
I would think so, but, so, yeah.
My thinking is that most of it is done in the grass waterways already, and where the damage is, so getting to that spot once you get into the field, because if it's in the plan, it should be okay to get in and
Sure.
do all of it, but I think you're not gonna find somebody to do it before September 15th, when most of the crops will be out anyways, or September, October.
What?
I'm not a farmer, so let me just say, before
I'm
freeze
sorry,
up.
can I quote you on
No,
that?
don't quote me on that,
Just
'cause I don't
wanna know
want
that
it.
that's
I'll say
gonna
October.
happen.
My tomatoes are way late, that's what
What are
we're
you talking about? Some of it's not even planted.
Right. Okay, let me rephrase that. Before freeze up, maybe. And even that freeze up, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But if you want, I could just put something together, we can send it out like we've done on that other one and see what sort of prices we get back and then, because the dollar amount sounds like it would be reasonable. You know, if we just did the simple one and then that
Right.
way it would go.
Right.
Yeah, your estimate's low enough that you can do that.
So maybe we'll do that and then I'll just kind of throw out there, I probably could just do a December 1st finish date. And then if there's any alternatives to that, that it has to go next year, please list that. That Maybe it would be done in
Right.
spring.
Right.
That way
You're
we're
talking
not.
option 2 then, okay?
Yeah, that's what I would
Yeah.
think.
Okay.
Because option 1, you're gonna go through that rock thing, and I don't think we wanna mess with that. If you're ever gonna replace any lines in there, I think you're gonna go south of that thing and just tie it in, but,
And it really is two separate projects.
yeah.
I mean, it's two,
Yeah.
we could combine it all together, obviously. We can do that with any project.
But to me, I think you wanna keep it simple, and
Yeah,
those trees need to go and just replace that line that's above ground.
No, there's only one project. There's two different options for the same project.
well, but they're separated. If you look at the diagrams of option 1 and 2.
I think you would still.
Option 1 is option 2's project plus more to the west, I assume it is.
Yeah, that's through all the trees and stuff like that. You
Yeah.
still would need to replace the line that is through the grass part between the two shaded areas. Shaded areas just show the clearing and grubbing, those are where the trees are.
Okay.
So, but if you want, I'll just do that, and I don't think there's not need for action on this one, is there? I don't think.
We have it as a review action.
Oh, if you guys want, we could just maybe review an after meeting procedure. Doing option 2 and then,
Well, with that, I'll make a motion that we direct Dusty to use option 2 for Drainage District 1 tile replacement.
And I'll second.
Okay. Then moved and seconded to direct Dusty to get prices, bids for option 1 on Drainage District.
Option
2 on Drainage District 1 tile replacement. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Frank is here, you want to go back to him for
Yep, go ahead,
a second?
you bet. You bet.
Our discussion might get kind of lengthy. We'll go back to item 7, which is review action regarding the treasurer's semi-annual report ending June 30th, 2018.
It's kind of noisy.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that you have
It's
this
in our
information
packet.
from the group. and have had a chance to look it over, maybe. And so I guess I'm just here to answer questions you might have, concerns.
The only one that ever seems to come up is that insurance fund, but we seem to think that we've talked about that in the past anyway.
Right, and you'll see that it's $284,000 approximately, and there's
Right.
142,000 outstanding warrants, so that puts the actual balance down to around $140,000.
And that's more acceptable than it has been in the past.
That's a
That's getting
question,
low.
it's a question for you. It is substantially lower, for sure.
Right. So do you have any?
Is there any recommendations?
I don't see any asterisks on there.
Well, I know, and I guess that's where I want to hear from you, Frank. I mean, what's your thoughts?
About the health fund?
Yeah.
Well, there is, you should take into consideration when you're looking at the balance right at this particular time that there's funds in an account with Two Rivers that I think are about in the $30,000 range that would ameliorate some of that, but it's still.
Are they not included in here yet? The Two Rivers aren't included in these
They're not
amounts?
included in here. I do have copies of the statements from May, which is the last reconciliation we got from them. We haven't gotten the June reconciliation from them yet.
But you have the bank statement,
We have a bank statement here. Yes.
the June bank statement. Would you like us to reconcile that bank statement for you? Or?
Well, no, it's reconciled. I mean, in regard to that, I've done some investigation and talked to an outside accountant, John Olson, about that situation, and he thinks that we can make that work by doing journal entries and an entry in the first place to place the funds that are held in these two accounts into our records. And then, and I've been thinking about this a lot, and I haven't really sat down with Gloria and talked about it, but she's aware that we probably want to be making a separate warrant for the insurance premiums, actually, and the administrative fees that they're charging us, any of the fees that they're charging us.
That's what we talked about, is we'd still do the warrant for those, but for the partial self-funding and for the flex, we talked about doing something different.
We're gonna have to do. yeah,
But that's what's making up the
those-
Two Rivers, those two rivers making up the Two Rivers balance.
And so I'm, and the thing is, we will have to stop issuing warrants for those in order to, I don't know, just treasurer's checks to those and balance those out with journal entries somehow or other. And of course, this isn't all in my realm, it's kind of a joint responsibility here, and I don't know that we.
Very similar to, it's almost identical to what happened with, when we were carrying the two bonds for the refunding of the,
TIF thing?
yes, the wind turbine.
Yeah,
bonds.
the wind turbines.
For 2 years that we had to carry until we had a call date, so Frank had a couple of years that he had to carry, provide another bank statement, but what we still issued warrants on those, but we didn't cash the checks because of that process, because it was still in our account, so we made warrants for payments. But when interest came in, an entry was done for those interest payments. What's unique to this is we get the bill, and the bill has that level of partial self-funding or what we have for flex, but that actually isn't being spent until the employee uses that.
Uses it.
Partial self-funding or flex dollars. And so that complicates this one.
Yes, absolutely. And, you know, when we first got started down this road of confusion was that when we initially started issuing warrants, because I was I had no knowledge that there were accounts that had been opened in our name.
Yeah.
And I was assuming that these accounts were their accounts because I'd never been approached to open an account. And so we used the warrant process to do what needed to be done. And finding out that these were actually our accounts, and so we were, in essence, transferring money from one of our bank accounts to another of our bank accounts through the use of a warrant, which isn't proper, you know, we shouldn't have done. So we have to stop doing that and figure out a way to keep track of this.
Can you do those partial self-funding and the flex with your treasurer's warrant rather than a regular warrant monthly?
Well-
And do that with your wire?
I mean, we can just, as far as taking care of that end of it, we can just on our daily cash sheet, we can just show that it went from one account to another account.
Sure.
But that still doesn't get it into the fund records. At some point, some entry has to be made to adjust the funds between each other.
And how did you do that when we had the Bankers Trust fund?
Well, I really don't see the Bankers Trust situation as being the same. I think that if we wanted to look at something as comparison, we should look to the way we did it before we started doing all this, you know, where we paid out of the health, 74,000, which is the health plan fund, and accounted for those, and you know, there was always, it always went back and forth between 74 to the actual disbursements that were made. So, you know, it's not easy to explain, and it's certainly not easy to come up with a solution, obviously, because we haven't done it yet.
The monthly journal entry that Johnson suggested, and what Elizabeth, I think, suggested as well, would get it back in Fund 74.
Right, and so
And 80, so 74 and 80.
my perspective on that, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that we would have pluses and minuses during the month, and at the end of the month, there'd just be one entry
Right,
made to account for those.
right.
And so maintaining records in order to decide what that amount is one thing. We'd have to set up a process in order to make that happen, that we were all comfortable with and that is accurate and timely. I don't know.
So it sounds like
We
you
get all the
guys need
reports, we get daily reports to figure that out, to know what's happening as those, because they don't pay a claim without sending us a report on what's being paid.
Yeah.
So we have all that.
Right, you do.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we should belabor this meeting any further to
Yeah.
talk about this, but.
Yeah, I guess the thing when I talked to you, Frank, about it, you know, I look for the solution. I don't have that. And I question whether it's a data keeping solution or if it's a physical solution of changing that bank account totally. And I don't know that. I'm looking for direction, I guess.
Yeah, I don't have an answer either. I know we've had discussions on it, so it just sounds like it's something that is it both of you then to work out and try to.
I think
You're already
it's-
involved
it's-
in Elizabeth in it.
We've already
Yeah.
done, it's just the logistics. of
The
it that,
logistics, that's what I mean.
need to be figured out.
Okay.
If Frank wants to switch the account, we can switch the account. It's not going to change the billing process.
Right.
There's still going to be internal stuff that needs to be done
Sure.
wherever the funds are
I
at.
just might mention something, you know, as I'm considering this, and EGSs or EBS is more than comfortable with using it on an account that we would designate. And the advantage of doing that in my eyes is that we'd be, if we were going to do this with a treasurer's check, we could, I mean, we can, if we have an account at a bank where we also have other funds, we can just transfer those daily, immediately, without, creating an ACH, which is what we're doing now. And they do credit some interest to us, and I've asked them how they compute that, and I haven't gotten a straight answer or an answer that I can understand from them. And some months they accrue interest, and some months they don't accrue interest. I don't know what that's all about. So I guess I'd be comfortable having a local bank and accrue interest ourselves rather than let them allocate interest to us.
Well, I think it's one of those that we could have on a workshop and discuss when you're ready to come to us with some good suggestions.
After we have a solution.
Yeah,
After we
that's
have a
what-
solution, that's
at the
what I
end
said,
of
and
the
we're
day,
looking for you guys.
You're the one that needs to be happy. So
Yeah, exactly. We look to you. to
How do you want us to
help
come up
with
with
that.
there? How do you want to come up with one, I guess?
Well, I think it's just a matter of sitting down and taking the time to
Yeah,
see the requirements that both offices have to make it.
I agree, whenever you're ready for that, yeah, we'll just put it on our workshop agenda.
Okay.
Sounds good.
But with
Forget it.
that, I can go
Forget
ahead
it,
and
solved,
take
we don't have to
action.
talk about it anymore.
Yeah. All right, I'll go ahead and move to approve the treasurer's semi-annual report ending in June 30th, 2019.
And I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the treasurer's semi-annual report ending June 30th, 2019. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome, thanks.
Item 10, we're back to Dusty. Discussion regarding the condition of the secondary.
I like the way that's
We
on
really
there,
want to
Steve.
talk about this.
I think you
State
guys
of
have
the
been,
union.
I mean, obviously you guys have been getting calls and stuff like that. I just wanted to, if you want to cruise through these, you can.
I've
This-
already.
Yeah, I mean, this is a stack, and this is Motor Grader District 81. This is your northeast part of the county, you can see up here, I mean, there's Caldwell. And then you got this whole quadrant here, you got this whole quadrant here, and these maps basically just talk about every one of those numbers is a ticket number where we got a load of rock delivered. So I concentrated it on Underwood Avenue East and B28 North, which is the Caldwell Road. And that being said, through July 9th, let's see, there was 112 loads of rock hauled up to that area. 110th Street had 15 loads, 120th Street had 50 loads. Victory Avenue had 10, Walnut had 19, Windfall had 6, Addison 1, Mitchell Line Street 11, for a total of 112 loads. You know, we're out there. I mean, and you want to talk blading, same thing. I mean, the blading operations have been, I mean, you can see those neck of the woods. I have no explanation of the way the roads are. You can ask any other county in the state right now. Everybody's dealing with the same thing, has been doing everything.
Yeah, I want to say one thing though, is that out of all the times that I'm driving around in that area, every time I'm getting a call, I'm going up and checking too, and I
Yeah.
know you do too.
Yeah, yeah.
But really, there are roads out there that are like perfect, just like they should be.
Yeah.
But they're not the ones with heavy equipment running on them on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And so every single one of those are the ones that have the heavy equipment.
Yeah.
And it's just,
And that was just the totals to the 9th, the 10th, 11th, 12th, 15th, and 16th. There's been 44 more loads put in that same area. I mean, we're not getting, I know you guys are getting called. I mean, that's not
but I know
including
that
west of Underwood.
you're out there,
Yeah.
and I see it, and, you know.
We had a
it's-
call last week on 180th, do you remember that call?
Yes.
I looked at that and we added 8
Yeah.
loads of rock on that stretch too.
And that was a road that
Goes into
bordered
Chickasaw.
going into Chickasaw,
Yeah.
and the person actually lived in Chickasaw, but had to
And
use
this-
180th to get to their location.
And there was a couple bad spots because I drove it that same day that you came in. I drove and talked to her, the lady the day before. And, you know, there was some bad spots, and there are, and they're still out there. I don't know if anything's gonna help a lot of these is we're gonna continue to haul. Contract rock has started up now, so by the end of the day today, more likely the southeast quadrant of Floyd County should be complete. We're gonna
And for
continue
the
on to
most
the
part,
west.
most of the roads down there are in pretty decent shape. They've straightened out, there's a
So
few
we're-
of them that are still.
Yes, I mean, we're still circling around. Contract rock will help a lot once we get to that, even that last stage up there. But we're still spot rocking and we're still blading. And we had, in fact, on that northeast of Charles City, which is probably the worst area compared to like my Chickasaw, it seems like all my areas over there are kind of bad. You know, we had an extra motor grader running up there too. It wasn't, you know, you got 80 some miles and you blade it one day and the next day someone's hauling on it, whether they're hauling feed to and from a facility or hauling crops out. I
Or
get that, that's part of
Loads
the,
of grain going to the ethanol plants. I mean, there's
Yeah.
just a
Corn
lot
is
of heavy
priced for that.
equipment running.
so the thing is, and I keep saying that is, you know, we're gonna keep an eye on it. Can we be back there the next day? We bladed it yesterday and they hauled on it today? Not necessarily. Is it pummeled? Some of the areas were powdery, and so when you get a little bit of rain,
That's all we're doing.
and that's all it takes, it just turns into the slop again, and
I was gonna
get
say,
it.
is our rock still sinking? You know, that's what we talked about earlier in the year.
But
Yeah,
I had a long
you lose a lot.
conversation with Chuck Knapp, I
So
invited
am
him
I.
here today.
Mhm.
And he's in Ohio racing his tractor or whatever he does out there, so but he, you know, like I was telling him, I says, you know, the whole entire thing is not, I mean, we put all the rock in the world out there, but all we're doing is putting a little bitty bridge over a bad base. You know, it doesn't solve, no matter what we do, no matter how much rock we put, it doesn't solve the base. And, you know, it's a,
I mean,
that's
that's where you
Similar
almost
to what
wish
you
you
did
could
over
just
Mark Rock, it's
carve
a
out
million.
some of it, put some fabric in, put some rock over it, you know, something
Yeah.
like, I mean, there's all kinds of ways.
we could tile this, we could do this. There's
Exactly.
500 some miles of it, and these
Exactly.
roads, we did not change the roads from last year, or the year
No.
before, or the year before.
well, they're
We're adding
100-year-old
rock.
roads that were built for a horse and wagon.
Yeah.
Right, there's heavier loads.
Yeah.
I just want you guys aware of it, I mean,
Right.
we keep good records of it. To say that someone thinks we're not trying,
I know, and,
Yeah,
and
that's the
so
comments we're getting.
just so it's on the record, I mean, a lot of the calls that we're getting, and I, you know, since we're, you know, being recorded, I wanna make sure, there's a lot of people, you know, that say, hey, we're tax-paying citizens, you know, we pay our taxes, and that's where I know that they're really getting
I just
a
want
lot
them
of
to know
concern,
where.
but I'm glad that you're here to say, this is what you've been doing, I don't know what more you could do either.
Right, right, and we're
You're
gonna
out
continue to
there.
haul until we get the contract rock around that neck of the woods, but, you know, it's not just up there. I mean, it's across the county too, because there's bad spots in other parts of it, and so
Sure,
we're adding
right.
spot rock to
Right.
those ones too. We do get calls elsewhere, we do spot rock everywhere across the county. This is probably the heaviest year for spot rock in the 18 years I've been here.
Right.
So,
But
just as
the other
the
thing with
conditions are.
contractor act, it doesn't put rock on every single mile in the
Right,
contract.
right.
It,
Goes every
Yeah, that's
other, yeah, we
this
typically
area
go
this
every
year,
other.
this area, this year.
Yeah.
But I do want people, the citizens of Floyd County, to know and recognize, we are responding. I think you've done a great job. Every time I call, I know if you guys have done the same thing, you respond back to me and say, we're heading, you know, we're gonna address it, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I
It's just
think-
been a very challenging year.
Yes, and I said, that's
That's
across the
all.
state too, I mean, it's,
Right.
I said, to say that, you know, we're not out, the mortgage haven't seen one for 4 months, well, that's wrong, because 4 months ago, we probably had snow. So you're right, you
Yeah.
wouldn't have seen anybody blading the road when we were hauling out the blizzards or anything like that.
Right.
But, you know, from March 20, or 11th, I think it was the day that on here, was the first time we hauled rock, and the spring was March 21st, and then we hauled all the way through now till now, so. I mean, I'm frustrated too. I mean, and I don't have an answer for anybody, and, you know, the people that typically are tearing it up are calling in and complaining about it, and I'm like, you know, we're gonna do the best we can to try to get more rock on the roads, that spot. Rock is cheap per se, but unless we hire 20 more guys for me to start hauling, I got one guy, or maybe the motor grader guy might be jumping in the truck too, so I got 1 or 2 guys hauling rock, but one load of rock, you can haul maybe 6 in a day, back and forth from the quarries. That's not gonna get a whole section of road, you know?
Well, and the other thing,
Well,
and if you want to mention too, is that every time that you're out there doing all this work, nothing else is getting done either.
Yeah,
So you get the
right,
calls for the people that say, my weeds aren't, you know,
Right.
right alongside
On
the
the
road,
shoulders.
and my road's not getting taken care of, you know, so everybody needs to just kind of understand the whole situation that we're in from a county perspective.
Well, what I see is, I mean, we're putting rock over there, and we're just trying to temporary fix it, but what are we gonna do in the long haul? You know,
I know, I've talked
and Chuck
about that
agreed this
too.
morning, you know, the only thing that's gonna straighten it out is a freeze and thaw, but it doesn't solve the traffic problem. We still got the same road.
It's got the same equipment going on those roads every
And-
day.
I think it's more of the topic of conversation that you guys, we have been out there.
Yeah.
The guys have been hauling rock, the guys have been
And I'm
bleeding.
glad that we have this on the
And,
agenda.
and I
we
understand,
have-
there's frustration, I mean, if I wanna go to a nursery that's all, I don't know where in the road, I get it, I mean, I'm driving around, you can drive for conditions. And the worst thing about it is even if they're blading and it's not bad, like I was driving some yesterday and I'll drive some today, they're still rough. I mean, there's
Oh, yeah.
not an easy way to
Yeah.
get that way you would think. Some roads are good,
Mhm.
but you get some that are gonna be rough, and we're not gonna come back and try to blade that flat. It's passable, drivable, it's just that it's, you gotta drive for conditions,
Right.
which is drive 35, 40 instead of 55, then that's what you have to do.
And the other thing I do want to mention, and I think you had the same conversation probably with Chuck, we've asked them, come in, you know, talk to us
Yeah.
as a board. So
Yeah.
all the board is hearing, you know, from
Mhm.
them, but
Right.
But I can only share this with you, and that was what the conversations with you guys the last couple of weeks were this, and I'm like, here, you guys, we are, and I know you guys are aware of it, but I figured let's have it on the agenda.
Well, what
And
I
we're gonna
think-
continue to do it too.
I mean, besides putting this little thing over there, you know, in the future, the loads aren't gonna get any smaller, their traffic is
No,
not getting.
they're not.
So, you know, what would happen if, just try it, get Schaefer's out there and pull a tile down the middle of one of them roads and see what happens. See if it helps, you know, like I told Chuck, he said, you know, that's the same thing we ran into with that pavement north of Marbrack, you know, it was full of black dirt, so you went to 500.
Pouring out 3/4 of that, so.
Yeah, so you start doing that to the gravel roads out here, you're $500,000.
Yeah,
A
that cost,
mile.
that cost $1 million for 7 miles, well, 3/4 of 7 miles, so
That
5
was
miles
pavement
was $1
included
million.
though.
Well, it was $1 million more, we got bid at 3.5 and we ended up finishing that project at 4.5, so I would say $1 million on 5 miles, so. But that's quarrying out and doing that, that's why it's not
That's what I mean.
economically feasible, it's
So you
economically
start
more
out
feasible to
on
haul rock.
500 miles of gravel road.
And then they say on average you lose about 100 ton per mile per year. On average, whether breaking down or, you know,
Per
snow
year.
operations, if
Okay.
you throw it in there, so I mean, if you add,
Sure.
we had 500 ton on, or 300 ton on this mile, 400 ton. 1 year later, 100 ton of that's gone, and then you don't do it the next year, you do it the following year, so you lost another 100 ton, and then you're still dealing with the original, what the road was built on, which is just the dirt from the ditches.
You and I talked one day, Franklin County is gonna go out for a bond for $3 million
Yes, I never did
Did you
read up
ever-
on that, yeah.
to repair roads.
Really?
Yeah, just
I
this
never
year.
heard that.
Both he and I read the same article, but there wasn't a lot of detail, and
It didn't go in a lot of details, yeah, they just said it, and then I'm like,
I'll call, I got Corey Ebling, he's the supervisor down there.
Yeah,
I'll
I
call
say
him.
I
it
know-
might be a good one to ask.
we have not had a NIACOG meeting, technical meeting, and I was gonna send an email about that, and they said we need to have an update one, so maybe I'll do that, and I can talk
That's
to Jay,
interesting.
the engineer from them.
But I don't
So
know
you'll
if
talk
that
to
was
Craig.
just road project, or if it was secondary, or
I'd be
gravel road
interested in
repair.
hearing
Bridges
what,
or
yeah.
paved roads, or.
I don't know what they were doing.
I don't know. I'm with you. I don't know the answer, but I recognize everything that you guys have been doing, and I appreciate it. It's just a horrible.
Well, and we're gonna get complaints, I get it, I mean, and I said I don't have an answer, I wish I did.
But again, my concern is those number of trucks are not gonna decrease.
Right,
They're probably gonna increase at some point. We've got new buildings going up, you know, so
Well-
there's gonna be more roads that are gonna be a concern that
There's
maybe
another
aren't even
conversation
now.
for the master matrix, maybe you ought to take the condition of the road into.
I
before you
actually
build
had that
one of those units
conversation
out there.
with
And so did I.
Senator Brown, and I certainly called him on this, and I said, I don't know what you're hearing in some of the other counties.
right.
And so he is fully aware, and we talked about the master matrix.
Right.
Because they need to recognize that every time a new building is going up, you are increasing that road traffic and the
Yes,
weights
absolutely.
that are going on there. Like right now,
And-
with the new one that's going up, I mean, those trucks that are going there are cement trucks and,
110.
yeah.
There was 5
Well-
bullets on the
I know,
lemon.
and I've been, that one's.
Yeah, we had that
Yeah.
conversation quite a while ago. About all the
It's a
extra rock that
concern.
went
We
up
didn't
on that.
plan for any of this, you know?
Well, but at the same time, you know, when we're trying to take care of roads, a private business certainly can't expect Floyd County to stand at attention while they're trying to build that building. You know, because then the rest of the county suffers.
I mean, we're gonna,
Right.
if you guys get called, I
Right.
said, just leave it at, continue to send, because what we do is we do the work order. The minute we do the work order, that's all saved in our computer. I could go pull up 110th Street or Victory Avenue or whatever and pull up every work order that was ever submitted. So that paper trail, boom, it follows that. On the spreadsheet, when tickets come in the office, Martha goes through and puts everything, spreadsheet. This is our FEMA stuff, our patch rock is categorized 2 different ways depending on what it's for. And so we can organize that and sort that, this is all done by street, 110th Street, 150, in
Right.
alphabetical order, so
Right.
we filter it that way. So we can find that information, and the fact that we do the work order follow trail, because then once something's done with it, they respond back, and then that trail saying, yes, it was bladed on this day, it was rocked on this day. We'll continue to do that. We're gonna
Again,
continue to
thanks
put
for-
spot rock.
Yeah, thanks for bringing this to the
Yeah.
board.
So we'll continue to put spot rock and continue to blade and continue to fit contract around lockdown, that will help for sure, so.
Okay. Well, with that, we'll move to item 11, discussion of county engineer regarding secondary road activities.
The only thing I have outside of that is, this is the contract for that maintenance thing we left south of Red. I just need 4 signatures from you with the sponsor.
Oh, obviously.
We already, you guys already acted on that, I just need signatures for the contract. There's four pages with a little, I put a little X by what you just, I'll fill out the dates and everything,
Okay.
and the info. There's 2 of those and then 2 in the back of the body. Let's see. Let's go projects. Contract rock, like I said, should be done with a quarter of the county by hopefully the end of the day, today or tomorrow. Continuing west and around. Bridge projects, 170th Street Bridge, basically they've been cleaning that stuff up. The dirt contractor was supposed to come in yesterday, but the water was up from the rain we had, so he's probably gonna be there today. It was only up a little bit in the ditches and we need to do some shaping in there first along with everything else. So there's 10 working days left on that, which I was hoping to be done by the end of July. But what Henkel Prime wanted to do was get all their stuff cleaned up and out of the way so that the dirt contractors come in and go in the thing. So that, hopefully they're there today, go through this week and next week, moving dirt, riprap, and we still have to put some down erosion control, seeding and stuff. So, that said, Henkel has moved over to 195th Street Bridge, which is the one we left, that is north of the fairgrounds, a mile back west. They're looking at probably wrapping up and moving forward with driving pile here in the next, not this week, probably starting moving some dirt around and start working on a pier next week. We want to get the pile driven so that the power company, which has the power lines pushed to the south, can come back in and set their power lines, which is what we have to pay for that too. Pavement markings, they came in yesterday to start doing handwork, that was let at the state. Hoping that the mainline painters can come in by the end of this week and start doing mainline painting. Day labor projects, we're up on the Addison Avenue, which is on the county line with Chickasaw, Chickasaw's half our expense. We're doing that work as a box culvert, we let that up here. I think we're setting that the first full week in August, so around the 5th, 6th, or 7th, or 8th, somewhere in there, that we'll set that box culvert as a day labor project.
That's weird.
Addison Avenue, in the northeast part.
Way up.
Outside that, we did have some FEMA work in the first part of March, which I found out 2 weeks ago that with the dam in Marble Rock adding to cost, that at first we were not going to be declared before the dam. So we went through all the fixings back in March. Very minimal damage, $10,000 worth of rock, which is still a lot of money, don't get me wrong.
Right.
But,
But there was no reason for documentation of anything. So come now, I get a call about the kickoff meeting that was in town after we gave them some preliminary numbers from us to help Marble Rock get the declaration from Floyd County. We got declared, and now I'm scrambling to try to pull some information together. So I think what we're gonna be able to get out of it is probably the price of the rock, maybe not the labor, but either here or there. It's probably gonna cost more pulling the information together than really is almost worth it. But that being said, we're pulling together, Martha with a spreadsheet having, every time we get rock, and the way they document it on like a map like this would be very similar with, say, FEMA instead of patch. We can correlate the person, the employee's time sheets with the date, with the rock tickets, so it's gonna take a little bit, but we'll get there and we'll be able to get a few $1,000s. It's more of a red tape nightmare than anything. But when the first thing happened, we weren't gonna have enough, so let's not worry about it. Well, now we may have to worry about it a little bit, so.
The DOT meeting over in, when it's all said and done, really doesn't have a whole lot of effect on Floyd County.
Right. I think, yeah, he interviewed me on that.
Because,
How the Floyd interchange was gonna affect Floyd County. You will have a little bit of detour thing, maybe when they work on the south part of that, to come down on the road that goes to the ethanol plant anyways.
But I mean, the long range plans, the frontage roads, the state's gonna maintain those?
Yes, that's what it's looking like. They're gonna either maintain or private maintain, depending on what has to get to where.
I gotta thank you, and Linda, I believe, was part of that, for taking that position and for the citizens of Floyd County. That's a good thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there was an accident there, so.
There was an accident there this morning, so I have not heard the details. I heard that there was a car tipped upside down in the median, so I haven't heard anymore. So again, this project cannot happen soon enough.
Yeah.
And Emma left here at 5 to 7, I was here and I
It's,
went.
They start working on the easements. I mean, again, it's a slow
Yeah, it's
process.
Real estate property.
The real estate,
requirement.
purchasing.
I can't remember when
real
they said, is
estate.
it later this year, like September or
I
something?
think it was more in 2020
But
before
the
they
real
really
estate,
took off.
the real estate portion of it takes a year.
Yeah, and I think any of
It's-
the construction won't start till late fall 20.
And the first construction is gonna be those access roads.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
crossovers and then
Yeah,
yeah.
work that can be done, like the circle ramps and all that, that's outside of the travel stuff like that.
as you can tell, everything takes time, just
Yeah.
like our project.
So that was,
I
it
mean,
was a
'cause
good
again,
meeting to go
it's-
to. I mean, there was a few people there, obviously.
Yeah,
Well, the same thing, how many meetings is that? 4? 3 or 4?
Yeah,
That they've had there at Floyd?
yeah, it's been going for quite a while.
Years and years.
Yeah.
Yes.
Some of us.
we should be happy that we're at this point, right?
Yeah, actually.
But when I heard that accident this morning, I was like,
Well, that's one of the biggest problems with the DOT, it takes them so long to get through all this
Yeah,
stuff. You're everything right, that by the time they get there, the design they got is 10 years old, and it's already outdated by the time they get it built.
Usually they take about 10 years. A lot of these planning studies take 10 years at least minimum.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have much else, you guys, I'm just kind of.
Okay.
One thing I do want to talk to you about at one point, I think I had mentioned this to Gloria about when the project gets started, we're gonna have to put some fencing around it.
Oh, okay.
I know the site manager asked me if there was anybody that we could work with, and I wanted to check with you first on that. Because it'll have to go around the entire,
Yeah.
it's quite.
Do you need fencing? We'll have snow fence that we could possibly just get and we can go put it on.
Or if it's something more, I don't know, if it's more of a, more like, what do I want to call it?
More
concrete type,
restrictive.
more restrictive, than
Yeah.
just fencing. So anyway, Brian will be coming here, so as soon as he starts, having more of a presence here as a site manager, I'll make sure he gets with
Okay.
you. Because he was also asking about, portable toilets, and I said we like to work with local people, so
Yeah.
we've got somebody to recommend for that, and then we also have like Gendros
You
with
better off
dumpsters
talking
and
to, there's some fence rental companies where they rent chain link fence, like they had.
That's what, and I'm sure Brian
Yeah.
has more of a
I
specific
mean, all we would have
idea.
probably is just like the snow fence that we would close the
Right.
road off at the post, which you could do.
Right.
People would stay away, but
Yeah,
some knucklehead kid probably jump over it.
but I think it also
This
involves
we find
like
it all
what
the
you
time,
were,
Just take a scissors and go up there and cut it.
yeah,
Then
I
you
think
get
it was
two
more
pieces.
like the silt,
Silt fence?
silt fence to, I think that was also part of it, to make sure, that during the construction that we're protecting, the streets and everything. So there's more to it,
You
but
get straw
anyway, we'll
wattles
get
and-
him with you on
You
that.
can straw wattles around the storm sewers, or whatever, things like that.
I believe that's part of that big, the silt fence, I believe is part of that. for
Stormwater protection.
I opened it, I didn't print it off or anything, but I think that's in there. It should be in there.
I was wondering if we could get another sandbag or two to put on the road, on the
Yeah.
signs. We had on Saturday,
Wind blowing over?
when blue one in the middle of Gilbert Street.
I was thinking that when me and Dwayne put the signs out there and put them on, I was like, whoa, we probably could use about twice as many sandbags.
Yeah, I think.
Well, we didn't know, but that
probably-
must have been some high winds. I was driving by it and I called Gloria, I says, is there a reason why you reported that?
Oh, it blew pretty good. from what I
And
heard.
somebody, I think, had probably picked it up in the middle of the street and put it in the median just to move it,
Oh.
and so.
Yeah, I'll get some more sandbags.
Okay,
Probably just make twice as many.
yeah,
I
just to
think
make
two
sure.
more.
Instead of two on each, one side each leg, but
Mm-hmm.
on each leg. Yeah, that's fine.
I got here at the same time as
Mike
evidently
Wendell.
somebody called the E and Mike Wendell got here at the same time I got here.
Okay,
Alright.
nothing else? That's good, move on.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
All right,
Yep, thanks.
I'll move to adjourn.
I'll second.
We're adjourned.